664, The Road to Human Kindness. I'm Les Winston. I'm your host, and I am the national spokesperson for the socialcharity.org site and concept, and Endow America, the Endow America Network Foundation, and my co-host, Wanda, is with us today again, as usual. Hi, nice to see you.
It's good to be here.
Good to be here, too.
I'm excited to get started on this
project.
This day. Is it going to be a good show?
I think we should start with the 5 Wishes booklet,
First.
which we talked about last time briefly.
Wait, just so they know that David Walker is coming up in the next few minutes. So
yes.
Stick around with that. And he's got lots to say. So
yes,
now,
thank you, Wanda, for reminding me.
And you, sir, too, have so much to say. So much to share with us.
All the time.
5 wishes, you say? You're like a genie.
Well, this 5 Wishes is a little different. One of the things that I do in presentations to groups is I talk about the 5 by 5, which is 5 different things that have 5 things in them. One of the 5s is the 5 documents that every person, or the 5 devices that people should have, regardless of what their financial status is, and those have to do with the documents that we need in life. Everybody needs to have a will. As part of the will, there's a surrogate health statement, a living will, and also a durable power of attorney that goes with the will. Then everybody should have irrevocable trust, an irrevocable trust in order to hold things that you want to keep out of your estate. Also have a charitable device that you can use to plan for the future, for charitable gifts in the future, and also to reduce taxes and produce income. And then also to have a foundation, a private or public or a donor advised fund that you can use as a recipient for charitable gifts. So going back to the first of those, the durable power of attorney, not durable power of attorney, but the living will and the surrogate health statement. Those documents are generally prepared using forms. If you go into the hospital, or if you go to if you're going for surgery, they'll ask you if you have a living will. And the living will is a document that they use to determine who is going to make decisions for you in the case you can't make those decisions for yourself.
And they ask you that at any age.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yes.
18, I guess, over.
Yeah. If you're over 18, then you're responsible for yourself. And so they want to make sure that they know who to talk to in case you can't speak for yourself. And that's a very important thing to take care of. It can happen in the event of an automobile accident, and it's not just sickness. So
motorcycle accidents.
Yeah, anytime. So Aging with Dignity is an organization that publishes a booklet which is called the 5 Wishes booklet. And this is a way for you to create your own living will, create your own surrogate health statement. In other words, you can appoint the person that you want to be your surrogate to make decisions for you. And you also give them directions as to what kind of decisions you want them to make, and in what form. For example, if something happened to you and you were unconscious and you were in a coma, a doctor could come and say, well, we want to pull the plug. You don't want the plug pulled necessarily under those circumstances, and somebody has to say that for you because you can't. So the reason for the 5 Wishes booklet is very real, and we are making them available to you. We get them from Aging with Dignity, but we're happy to provide them to you free of charge. If you'll go online, I think we're going to set it up online. Wanda?
I believe it will be on our Facebook page. So that makes it really simple for everybody. Just go to the Facebook where you are probably right now. Yeah.
Okay.
Facebook Live, and find us there. Socialcharity.
Socialcharity.org. We're going to get used to saying that.
Please
over
do.
And over and over again. We want you to get used to it as well.
We're teaching Google. That's the first place to start. Google is now our official lexicon of America.
Yes.
The dictionary we go to.
Exactly. So, it's a new concept, new term, but it is what it is. It speaks for itself. Mm-hmm. So the 5 Wishes booklet, this is what it looks like.
Wow, that's what it looks like in the olden days.
Yeah, it's got a lot of questions in it, or a lot of choices that you make. And this is why I think it's a better tool than the normal living will or the normal surrogate health statement that may be prepared for you by an attorney. They don't really give you that much information. You don't need an attorney to do this, and it doesn't need to be notarized, but it does need to be properly witnessed in the state of Florida, and it is a valid document in the state of Florida as long as it's witnessed properly. So go to the website and or go to our Facebook page, and you will see the 5 Wishes booklet being offered there, and take advantage
Hopefully
of that.
it's there. If it's not there, it'll be there by the end of the day. So
Yeah, we're going to try and get up as quickly as possible.
or just put a request, say that you saw it and you're looking for it, and so we'll know you're actually really interested and not just trying to yank my chain.
Okay,
As
5 Wishes booklet. So the other thing, following our show last week with Phil Cabetta, I got a phone call.
Oh,
It was interesting because the gentleman's, he said, he says, I've seen the 664, Route 664 of the Road to Human Kindness. And he says, and I haven't really thought about it. I was thinking about it as a religious program. He thought I was, maybe you're giving sermons on the air, because the Road to Human Kindness had that connotation. But he says, when I tuned in and listened to it, it really it's a financially related program, but it's also deals with spirituality, deals with human kindness, and all those things. Yes. And he said, and I think that I may have screwed up a little bit. I said, why is that? He says, well, I had a situation, and I'm still in a situation where I did have some properties that I sold, and now I sold them in 2020, and now this year I'm having tax issues that I got to deal with, and I'm not sure how to deal with that. And I think, what you were talking about might be able to help me. I said, okay, how did you screw up? He says, I think I had to do this last year. I said, you mean before December 31st? He says, yeah. He said, so if I were to create a tax deduction this year, that's not going to help me about last year. I said, no, it has to do with what may come in the future. If you have any other properties to sell. So no, I don't. He says, but so what else can I do? I said, well, you can still do things for human kindness. You can still, if you've sold property and you're late in life, how old are you? And he said, I'm 78 years old. So I said, okay.
Oh, you got some time.
Do you have a family? And he said, no, I don't. I'm just, that's the other thing you were talking about on that program. He said, I realize I'm not alone in the world, that there are a lot of people like me who don't have any family, that, basically have income, have a lot of property, and we don't know what to do with it. And I said, well, you give it to me. And I said,
I think there's a dating app for that.
Yeah. So I said, what do you care about? And we ended up in a very long conversation about, and it was interesting because he hadn't really thought about it that much. Nobody had really prodded him to focus on what he cared about. What did he want to do? And he had things that he did want to do. He was a farmer, and he wanted to help people learn about agriculture and how to actually spread agriculture around the world. I said, great idea.
Good.
Yeah, great idea. So we're going to see how we can help him do the things that he wanted to do. I did read the articles that you gave me, Wanda. The one about family culture, creating a resilient family tree.
It seems like it would be, instead of creating a family business, a family foundation is a great way to build better bonds amongst the generations, I would think, particularly. And you've mentioned that before, and since we're all about that human kindness thing, it's a great thing to approach.
It has to do with relationships.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the other levels on the pyramid of confidence. We talk about confidence of money as the lowest level, most important level, to be confident over your money. Then you get confidence over your time, and then next in line is relationships. And part of relationships is how you build the relationships in your family and maintain those over a long period of time with regard to success and doing things that are good for the community as well as for your own family culture. And it does. There was a book written by Kawasaki, I believe. He said you end up going in that book. He said you go from shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. In other words, one generation makes a success of their makes a financial success, and then by the 3rd generation, it's dissipated and gone. And the building of a culture in a family and the building of relationships with regard to how you can spread human kindness and how you can take care of the community and work together as a family to do that is one of the ways of building the culture and the long-term bond. And in a sense, it's leaving a legacy. It's that concept of creating something that lives on behind you, beyond your life. In fact, this article relates the story about how this individual knows the name of their great-great-grandfather. A lot of people really don't even know that.
It's a great way to pass down the stories, and just for me, thinking as a person of culture, it's a way to start to build the family legacy that may have been lost or that has been forgotten, or newer families these days can start to form their family's legacy, and that's kind of cool. That's so 2020-ish.
Yeah, 2020.
2021.
2021. Let's deal with 2021.
Right.
2020-ish is a little bit much-ish. So the culture, building a family culture, building that relationship between yourself and your children and then the grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Yeah. There's no reason why you can't pass on your ideas, yep. What's important to you, and move it to the next generation. The other article that you gave me was also important. In part of this is the question: what do we want life to be like as a result of the work we do? Which is a question of genius. Getting to the genius, getting to be able to do what you want to do for 24 hours a day and never get tired of. But figuring out what that is sometimes really difficult. And so that's a question that we really should ask ourselves. What do we want to do with our lives? What's our purpose on the planet? Why were we put here? Yeah. And what can we do to go further?
If it didn't involve money. If you could take money out of what would you do that you could just do all day long? And if you didn't need money.
Right. If you didn't need money.
If you didn't need money, what could you just,
right. Well, that's the whole point. Genius. That's the confidence. You have to have confidence over money. You have to have confidence over money to start with, because if you don't have confidence over money, it's really hard to think about other things. Exactly. But once you reach that level where you have confidence over money, you can start progressing up the pyramid and get to the point where you can work at your genius. Right. And working at your genius is really ideal.
Speaking of genius, we do have our resident genius, maybe, David? Would you call yourself a genius?
David Walker.
Are you not me? I wouldn't call myself a genius.
Are you working your genius?
I've done okay on the men's exam, but for what that's worth.
Well, that's good. That's a good start.
I would say it's a pretty good start. Yeah. Good morning, David. Nice to have you back with us.
Good to be back, but I got to tell you, we've got snow, sleet, and freezing rain here, so it's quite a bit different than Miami.
Well, you're welcome to come down anytime if they'll let you.
I will at some point. Yeah.
Okay. And you are from Coral Gables originally, since this is a local community newspaper program. We want to stress that we are dealing with local people. So, David, last time we met, we talked.
Did we go through David Walker, former?
Right. Oh yes, David Walker. You're the former Comptroller General for the United States under Clinton and Bush.
And Bush, both. Right.
Right. So. We talked a little bit about laggardship and leadership, and that there's a lot to be done to correct where we are. I think the biggest problem that we have is how do you change government from being so involved to being less involved in things that they shouldn't be involved in? Is that a question of leadership?
Yeah, somewhat. I mean, the real question is, what do we expect government to do, and how should government do it in order to be most effective? You talked before I came on about some important issues, including principles and values, and what type of principles and values should govern our government, should govern ourselves and our daily lives. And one of the concerns that I have is that we have strayed dramatically from the principles and values on which the country was founded. limited but effective government, individual liberty and opportunity, personal responsibility and accountability, rule of law and equal justice under the law, fiscal responsibility, intergenerational equity, and stewardship. We've strayed from that. In addition, we've gone from having elected officials that were part-time and did it for a period of time, came from the real world, did some temporary public service that went back to the real world, to now where we have career politicians who are very concerned with keeping their job, as any person would be, but are not connected to the real world, and in addition, don't want to make tough choices because they're afraid they won't get reelected, and that's why we are in with regard to not only our nation's finances, but many other issues where there are tough choices. And so the issue is what do you need to do in order to be able to effectively make one, given our current political situation, divided not just partisan-wise, but ideologically. I've never seen the country as divided as is now. The good news is that we can overcome this.
So last time I made a mistake last time when I was giving the title of your book. The title of the book is America in 2040, and it's a question: still a superpower? Not still a superpower,
right?
And that question is really the crux of your book. It's the concern that you have, and you lay it out very clearly in that. And I recommend everybody read that book because that is the question: are we going to be a superpower in 2040? Based on the road that we're on. I did get a Chinese proverb, which I did want to read. I'm so proud of myself that I got a Chinese proverb. Hold on a second.
Was it from a fortune cookie?
Something good from China. So after, let's see, the proverb is, if we don't change the direction in which we are going to get where we are going. Now that's brilliant. So how do we change the direction in which we are going? How do we do that? I mean, the Constitution stated, I guess, 18 enumerated powers of government. Those 18 enumerated powers were very clear, and we've strayed from that. We've gotten overblown with regard to what we are doing as a government. How do we get back away? How do we back away from that? How do we get back down to the simpler times?
The issue is not backing away from where we are. It's reprioritizing and restructuring where we are so that we can have a better future. Okay, let me give you a few statistics. In 1912, the federal government was 2% of the economy. And before COVID-19, it was 21. So that means it's 10.5 times bigger as a percentage of the economy than it was in 1912. In 1912, Congress controlled 97% of federal spending. And that federal spending related to the express and enumerated responsibilities of the federal government as outlined in the Constitution. Now, the Congress, controls less than 30% of federal spending, and a lot of the things that it doesn't control are not expressed and enumerated in the Constitution. And in addition, states' rights have been totally eviscerated. Basically, the federal government is assuming more and more responsibility, less and less to the states, and that is problematic. So what do we need to do? First, we need to wake up. We need to recognize that we're on an imprudent, unsustainable path. We need the president, whomever the president is, and now it's President Biden, to use the pulpit to understand that we need to do what we need to do but we are not in good shape financially, and we are not with regard to our monetary policy, and we're going to have to start making some tough choices, and then put a mechanism in place to be able to enable us to make those tough choices. I sent earlier this op-ed that I just had published within the Land of the Hill, which is the publication that a lot of members of the Senate and the House read, that gave some suggestions as to what do we need to do on this code in order to try to be able to reach a compromise, but that no matter what we do there, we need to create a statutory fiscal sustainability commission that will engage the American people with the facts and the truth, solicit their views, make recommendations to Congress with a guaranteed vote. Because you're not going to be able to do this in the normal order. You're not going to be able to do it piecemeal. You need to do it as a package. And I've got firsthand experience on that through my 10,000-mile tour in 2010, where we demonstrated that the people are willing to accept tough choices if they're part of a comprehensive goal-based plan consistent with principles and values that bring people together rather than divide them apart.
Was that Simpson Bowles?
No, mine was
that,
before Simpson Bowles. What I did was a supplement to, not a substitute for, Simpson Bowles. Simpson Bowles did very good work. That was also 2010. You're correct. Okay. And the problem with Simpson Bowles is that A, it wasn't statutory. B, it didn't engage the American people in any meaningful way outside the Beltway. C, it was not guaranteed a vote and didn't get a vote in Congress. And D, the president abandoned them. And so, you can't have any one of those things happen and have a chance for success. So we need to learn from that experience. Candidly, 80 to 85% of what they came up with is still meritorious today. And in a starting place for where we go. But unfortunately, we're in much worse shape today than we were in 2010 when the tour was done and when Simpson Bowles was in existence.
Yeah, we've increased our debt, if nothing else. I mean, that's the biggest thing that's happened. Our debt has gone. I guess at that time, what we were about 3 trillion or 4 trillion.
Oh, it was higher than that. But now we're about 30. Okay, and that doesn't count unfunded civilian and military pensions, retiree health care. That doesn't count unfunded Social Security and Medicare benefits. When you end up counting all those numbers, frankly, we're closer to 100 trillion.
And when you talk about those things, you're talking about the retirement plans that are they're not guaranteed by the government. They are proposed by the government, I guess, and the fact that they're promises, right? And even Social Security is a promise,
and not funded.
Right. Yeah. So if you were a business and you were running your own pension plan that way, you would be subject to fines by the Pension Benefit Guarantee Corporation. Or you'd be punished in some ways from a tax standpoint. The government's able to do these things without any recourse. I mean, people are counting on some of those things and they don't know that they're going to get them. And certainly, we've talked about Social Security before, and you said that you can sustain Social Security by making adjustments to it. Give me an idea what those adjustments might be.
Well, first, let's talk about the fact that I used to be head of the Pension Benefit Guarantee Corporation. I was also Assistant Secretary of Labor for Pensions and Health. Okay. And if you tried to do if you operated like the federal government operates, you'd be in jail. All right. I mean, it's as simple as that. You can't do this in the private sector. There are minimum funding standards that you can't make promises without funding them. The federal government doesn't do that. Frankly, state and local governments don't do it either. They're exempt from the Employer Retirement Income Security Act. Let's talk about Social Security. Social Security is the most important and the most popular federal government program. All right. It's a financing challenge. COVID-19 has made that worse. It's estimated that the so-called trust funds, which are funded with government debt, by the way, will be exhausted in 2031. If nothing is done, then in 2031, everybody's benefits will have to be cut by about 22% across the board, no matter what your income level is. That is inappropriate. It is unacceptable, not just from the standpoint of equity, but from the standpoint of politically. So we're going to have to reform it. And we're going to have to learn lessons from the past. We're going to have to gradually increase the retirement eligibility ages. Life expectancies are longer. The nature of the economy is very different. In addition to that, we're going to have to raise additional revenues, probably by not raising the tax rate, which is very aggressive, but raising the amount of income that's subject to the Social Security tax. We're going to have to strengthen the benefit, meaning increase the benefit for people who are near the poverty level. And we're going to have to somewhat reduce the replacement rates prospectively for upper middle income and upper income individuals. So these are examples of some of the things that you can do and that we talked about in 2010 that got 77% support from representative groups of voters in America. And that's even better than overcoming a veto. I mean, 77% is pretty amazing.
aren't we just putting a Band-Aid on a bad situation? I guess my question is, why are we relying so heavily on that as a means, considering that it's really not in the government's purview? It is a promise that is not guaranteed. It's really difficult to work with from the number standpoint. Isn't there a way that we can work into something that's more effective over the long term? But don't we need to have a plan to do that? And one of the things we have, what we've been talking about, is Section 664 of the tax code, which was created in 1969, which we call it social security because it has the similar benefits of social security. In that sense, it creates income, and it's also it is a government program, and it's a way for people to create future income as a supplement right now. But we were reviewing that as a potential change in the future, where rather than the government being in control of this in terms of the mandatory nature of it, that there be a mandatory change to some other form. I know that Bush had talked about the personal savings accounts. They were a little different in the sense that when the person passed away, there was a corpus that was left to the family. And the nature of Social Security is that you pay in all of this money, and when you die, there is no corpus. The corpus is absorbed. So in the sense, Social Security is the same kind of thing, in the sense that you put money into this over a lifetime, and at the end of your life, it's not left to your family in the form of a remainder, but it goes to charity, and that charity can be directed by the individuals. So that's the thought process behind this. So just let
me talk to you about that for a second. Okay, let's understand that Social Security was never intended to provide an adequate amount of retirement income for people to live on in retirement at the same standard of living. It was always intended to be a foundation, which, like a house, you have to build on in order to have an adequate dwelling, right? So what we talked about was, let's reform Social Security to make it solvent, sustainable, secure, indefinitely, where the government can actually deliver on its promises, all right? But let's also recognize that that's not enough. And one of the things that we also talked about was a supplemental automatic savings account, let's say 2% of pay, that would be the individual's money. That would be like which would be patterned after the Federal Thrift Savings Plan, which is the largest 401k plan in the world for federal employees. Individuals would own that. They would be able to control how it's invested. And when they pass, they would have to have control over what happens. The other thing we have to keep in mind, so you have Social Security, private pensions, personal savings. Obviously many individuals, their biggest net worth is the equity in their home if they're fortunate enough to own a home, okay? So we do need to look at this comprehensively. Part of the problem with President Bush's 43's proposal was he forgot what the second word was in Social Security. It's not opportunity, it's security. And unfortunately, for 50% plus of Americans, this Social Security is their primary source of retirement income. Primary. Was not intended to be that way. And over 20% of Americans, that's all they have. All they have is Social Security. So you're right. We need to be thinking broadly. We need to be innovative. And I think the concept that you talk about is something that could be very compatible with this supplemental savings, and then having individuals being able to have control over what happens to those resources. They're gone because it's their money. It's not the government's money. For the defined benefit program, it is. Yeah.
And so the thing is, the Social Security concept is they get to see how their money is growing because they have an interest in the account because it's their trust account. But also they do have they can see what they're going to be able to produce in the future because it's able to grow in a different environment. I mean, in Social Security, if you look at the return on Social Security, it's minimal. So what we're saying, and it's not investing in America. Whereas if they had their own trust account that was accumulating in their name for their benefit at retirement, and then it was invested in America in stocks and bonds and whatever, we would be also creating great GDP. How we
Can I
doing on
mention
time,
something
Ron?
real quick? You know what Social Security is invested in by law? 100% of Social Security's investments is U.S. government debt. That's how they invest, okay? So figure that one out. But look, what you're saying is very compatible with what I'm saying, okay? That we need to have a solid foundation where people can count on they're going to get what they've been promised. But that's not enough. We need to have a supplement. People need to own it. People need to control it, you know, and people need to be able to have a say over what happens to it after they pass.
And to be able to see what it is.
Yeah.
See how it's growing, see what the value is. You know, everybody's putting money into these things. They don't know where it's going. They don't know what it's doing or anything.
Well, the Federal Thrift Savings Plan is the largest 401k plan in the world. Federal employees are covered by it, okay? You have several investment options. It's your account. You get regular reports on what's happening with regard to your balance, with regard to your rate of returns, if you will. You can make changes, to that during the year. So the difference is you want them to be able to couple that with some type of a designation for charities or whatever, which is very compatible. That could happen.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, we need to be able to support community services. And the more you support community services, the less expense there is to the community. And I mean, for example, I'd like to see a hospital in every community that's funded by its own endowment. And that endowment would be created through the remainders that are left by these funds. And you'd have if you had a children, like Shriners Hospital in every community that was funded by the endowment, people would have free medical care, in essence, or they'd have very inexpensive medical care. It has a bearing on everything in general. Just out of curiosity, what course do you teach at the Naval Academy?
I teach the economics of national security, which is very broad.
I bet.
It's very compatible with my latest book, but it covers even a lot more material than what the book covers.
So if we could put the book cover up again, that would be good, Tommy, if you have it there. This is their latest book. It's America in 2040, Still a Superpower?
Still a superpower?
Okay.
A pathway to success is the end.
That's the end. That's the tagline. The pathway to success.
That's right. We want it to be yes. We want it to be a yes. The answer to be yes.
Okay. Right. And so are you optimistic, David?
I'm an optimist.
Did you just flip off?
Wait, you froze there for a second, Dave.
I'm very, very frustrated. I'm very disheartened with how dysfunctional Washington has become, how partisan and ideologically divided it's become. The last fiscally responsible president that we had in this country was Clinton. Nobody's been fiscally responsible since then. Deteriorated dramatically. So you talked earlier in the prior segment. Look, my view is my job is not to maximize my net worth; it's to maximize my self-worth. It's to make a difference while I'm on this earth, and enough people need to understand that people need to understand the meaning of the word enough. Once you have enough that you can have a comfortable living, okay, you don't need anything else. And then you need to focus your energy and efforts on things that will help make the world a better place. And that's what I'm trying to do. And what I'm trying to do in particular is to try to see if I can get our elected officials to put our finances in order, because if we don't put our finances in order, the answer to the question on the book is going to be no. And it's not just going to hurt us internationally, it's going to hurt us domestically, because we have significant domestic gaps, income, wealth, education. And quite frankly, COVID-19 is making that a lot worse. It's making it a lot worse.
Yes, David Walker, the former Comptroller General for the United States under Clinton and Bush, responsible also to the GAO. What was the purpose of the GAO? What is the purpose of the GAO?
To improve the performance and assure the accountability of the federal government for the benefit of the American people. It's a full-time job.
Yeah. That's for sure. And I did want to say one other comment. It was interesting that the federal employees have the kind of a plan that the rest of the world should have. And the federal employees have really done very well during COVID. Not one of them probably has lost their job. And I'm not just putting that out there. And yeah, I'm not being cynical about that. I'm just saying people need to be aware of changes that need to be made. And I think that's what they need to be thinking about. Your book is a stimulus to think that way. Again, I thank you very much for joining us today on Route 664, David. It's always a pleasure speaking to you, a font of knowledge and authoritative knowledge, and we appreciate that very much. And
thank you so much.
We'll look forward to talking. We're going to look forward to talking to you again, because
right.
I think this is a very entertaining section for people to be aware of what we're talking about. Route 664, the road to human kindness, is not just road to human kindness, but also financial stability. Wanda, I'm sorry.
No, I don't want to remind people to get their, find out more information.
Thank you, everybody.